1, 2, everybody jump, everybody jump, everybody jump. 1, 2.
Do you know this fellow? No, I must say I find that hard to believe.
Okay, so you got some nice boneless short ribs and you want to make a nice meal for the night. Or maybe you got a large chuck shoulder and you want to make a meal that you can save and eat later. Well, here's a simple braised beef recipe that gives you kind of a curry-like flavor and makes a great date night meal. First, you gotta preheat your oven to 350 Fahrenheit. Then we gotta brown our meat. We won't be able to get a whole lot of browning at the end. We'll get a little bit, but not a whole lot. So we want to get a lot of the browning done now. It doesn't matter if you get it perfect because we will still get some, but if you don't get any at all, you're not going to have a lot at the end, and that contributes to a lot of flavor. Medium heat oil in a oven safe pot. You want to make sure that this pot will not melt in the oven. If it has rubber handles, you can't use it, at least 99% of the time. You can take off the rubber handles, do that. Otherwise, make sure you have a pot that can go in the oven. And lay them down nice and flat inside of the pan. I would recommend using a smaller pot if you have it, but this is the only oven safe pot I have apparently, which did not make it easy to put and use in the oven. While this is going, you should chop some onions. It's not going to burn while it's going, so you don't really have to worry about it burning, so you can do stuff like chop some onions. I think a half moon is pretty good for this, but that's just what I like and what I've heard. Make your onion however you want it. You could do, you could dice it, you could do bigger chunks, you could do no onion at all if you really want to. It's whatever you want. Once the meat gets brown on both sides, take it out of the pot and throw in those onions. Let those sweat for a little bit, then add a little bit of tomato paste to brown. I would say let them sweat for like 1 minute and then add the tomato paste. After probably another minute, or earlier if you think it's gonna burn, deglaze with a large glug of sake. I put in maybe a cup. If you have it, you could do red wine instead. That'd be really good for the flavor. If you don't want to use alcohol, you could just use water and spike it with a little bit of vinegar. Or you could just spike it with a little bit of vinegar anyway. Do whatever you want. Let the alcohol burn off, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes. And then add a can of crushed tomatoes and a can of coconut milk. These are really gonna add a lot of flavor to it as it simmers in the oven, and it works really well. Throw a lid on this and throw the meat back in if you haven't already before you put on the lid, and throw it into the oven for 1 to 2 hours. While that's going, chop up some carrots. They're gonna make a great veggie to eat along the side of this meal, and adding them later in the stage, make sure that they're still nice and al dente when we get to eat them. You could add them in earlier at the beginning if you prefer them to be really, really soft. First, we gotta peel the outer skin. It just doesn't really taste that good. You could keep it on if you do like the flavor. And then chop them into nice bite-sized pieces and throw them into the pot when the hour comes up. If you want your meat to be softer, you're going to want to cook it for longer, so just do 2 hours rather than 1 hour. I prefer a little bit more of a firm texture where I have to use a knife. But if you want it to be to where you can literally pull apart the meat, then you should cook it for a pretty long time. I'd say 2 hours, maybe even 2.5 before you throw in the carrots. Once you throw the carrots in, take the lid off of the pot and throw it back into the oven for another hour at least. You might want to flip it the meat halfway through so it gets brown on both sides. This is what's going to help continue that browning that we didn't necessarily get a great coverage of last time. Now let's make garlic bread. A quick and honestly kind of funnily trashy counterpart to this long simmered curry-esque meal. Get yourself a large amount of butter and throw it into a microwave to soften. And when I say a large amount, I mean an embarrassing American amount of butter. And then chop up some fresh garlic. Ideally like 4 cloves, you could do less. I just love garlic. I mean, it's garlic bread after all. Get that pretty fine. You don't have to get it perfect or like into a paste or anything, but you don't want like huge chunks of garlic in your bread. You don't want like whole cloves. You want to be able to slather it on each part. Mix it into the butter, And then slather this onto pieces of bread that have been cut in half. And throw them into the oven about 10 to 15 minutes before the beef is done. You don't want to wait until the beef is done because then the beef is going to be cold by the time the garlic bread comes out. So you want it to be timed around then. And I would recommend, if you could, even throw it into like a toaster oven at a hotter heat so you get more browning than I did. Now, let's counteract that extremely unhealthy side dish with one that's actually pretty healthy and just as tasty. A little strawberry pecan salad. First, get the top off of the strawberries. They taste terrible and you don't want little green leaves in your strawberries. And I would recommend even going further and trying to get more of the white bit out. Just don't go too deep. And be careful. Then chop them into bite-sized pieces. I like to do quarters. You could go to eighths or even smaller than that. Just whatever size you feel you want. However big or small you want. Then also cut up some pecans to a smaller size. Whatever size you want. I like to do them almost like garlic minced size. They're pretty easy to chop about that level. Add these to a bowl with some spring mixed lettuce. That's just what I like to use, box spring mix. I don't really feel like chopping up or tearing my own lettuce leaves. It's just easy to buy a boxed spring mix. And then the salad dressing I would use for every salad ever. The holy grail of salad dressings. The best, the only salad dressing that makes men weep tears of joy. Makoto honey ginger dressing. This is the best salad dressing in it, and I am not stuttering when I say that. I wish I just had an entire lifetime supply of this delivered to my door every single day because it is seriously that good. I am not sponsored by Makoto honey ginger. I am not affiliated with them in any way. I just deeply, deeply love the flavor of Makoto honey ginger. Before plating, let me show you a quick yummy soda that is healthier than most store-bought sodas. First, 1 fresh squeezed lemon, then orange juice, and a club soda. Boom! Super easy soda in literally maybe a minute, and it is so good and works really well with this meal. Now let's get plating. First, take your bread out of the oven, top with some fresh torn parsley, and then chop into strips for easy eating. Then add some beef onto the plate with sauce and carrots, add salad and garlic bread, top the beef with a little bit more fresh torn parsley, and eat up. This is a great date night meal, and I hope you guys enjoy.